Hello, good morning, everyone. Hello, everyone from all over Australia and everywhere. Thank you for joining me and the Tibetan Buddhist Society and everyone else you can see on Zoom, as well as those you can't see but on Facebook, as well as on YouTube. This is our regular Sunday morning calm abiding meditation followed by a talk. So take your seat and set your mind, body, most importantly, your good intention and good even attention throughout the meditation. So you need to sit still and have your mind focus on the techniques. We'll focus on the posture and forward counting of qualified round breathing and then reverse counting of super qualified round breathing. So most of you are very familiar, so I wouldn't spend much time talking, but use the gong to time you in 3 slots so that you really remain very disciplined and very present and not letting your mind wander off, because people suffer from huge attention deficit, and the idea of meditation is to sharpen our mindfulness to stay very present. So if you don't stay very present during meditation, no wonder why you cannot pay attention when you're doing things, or you're not calm. You cannot be distracted if you are focused. If you're distracted, that means you are not focused. So distractions are only an indicator of your own quality of meditation. For instance, in this meditation, you are trying to sit still, and yet your body want to move, you want to look here and there, you want to adjust this, you want to do this, that. Those are the distractions. You don't need external distraction from people knocking your door or phoning you. Your own mind is distracted and you couldn't focus. So that's why sitting still in the correct posture, watching the breath, counting forward and reverse is an excellent tool and great gift. So thank you for your taking time, and we'll first do the refuge and generation of the right intention. So we should do it not just for the session, for the day, for today, but for the long term kind of a fashioning and sharpening our mental faculty and benefit of all sentient beings. So with this intention, let's do the refuge and four immeasurables. Oyenda Buddha Dharma Sangha Aitere Vijay Ladame by virtue Adyehandala Aishare Padavatu and the Buddha Sangha Aitere Vijay Ladame by virtue Adyehandala Aishare Pada Vatu and the Dharma Sangha Aitere Vijaladama by virtue Adyehandala Aishare Pada Vatu. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and a cause of suffering. May they know a powerful happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, or those near far. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and a cause of suffering. May they know a powerful happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, those near far. May all beings happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness that no suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from a judgment and aversion to those never. So we're going to use the gong to time your 3 slots of meditation period. You largely observe the 4S. The first is stillness of your posture, which means not sitting still and stiff, but you're still, but still balance. Also, your attention should be very focused and very one-pointed. That makes the stillness. Second is the intention should be very sincere and very, very motivated, and you just honor yourself to honor your word to sit still and do it for the benefit of all sentient beings. That's very sincere. And then third is serenity. Your attention, your focus, your technique should be very serene and one-pointed. And you should do all the above with simplicity. It's very simple. Do not make it very complicated. Whether you're doing forward counting or reverse counting of qualified and super qualified, you can use those terms to help you to stay present. When you're inhaling, mentally say in, and when you're permeating, mentally say permeate, and then you're exhaling, mentally say out. So you're in, permeate, out. So very simple. So use your own keywords to help you stay very present. So with this now I'll just use the gong and let's sit still in support and appreciation of all who are here with us, and also for the benefit of all sentient beings. Many sentient beings so restless, so agitated, so uncontrolled. We too become like that when our mind is a little lost. So here we wanted to find our mind to stay very present with the help of this meditation. Hello everyone, welcome once again. Thank you everyone joining. Most of you are very familiar with your Sangha. All the way from Harvey Bay we have Peter. Hello Peter. And we have Carol from, I think, Victoria, and Phil from Townsville. And Kathy also Bundaberg, near Bundaberg. and Dawn from Canberra. Yeah, hello Dawn. And Anthony and Joe from Siba. And from somewhere in northern New South Wales. Sylvia Barber from Sydney. And Natalie from somewhere in, I think, in Sunshine Coast. I'm not sure. Somewhere in the universe. And then I don't know some other people's location. Helen and Helen probably from Wollongong or South Australia. Melbourne, is it? And then Pirangala. Lama from Geelong, Victoria. Geelong, hello. And then Roberto, hello. Roberto from Canberra. I'm assuming, and simplicity and sincerity everywhere, I think. So thank you everybody joining us. And I'm sure there are some in the Facebook, but I can't access everybody's name. Irene and Moira, Jackie, hello. All, mostly from Melbourne, Irene from, I think, Brisbane. I'm sure there are many of you who are joining us. Thank you very much. Theme of our talk still is understanding sentient beings. This is the 12th one today. We could do this forever because we don't understand sentient beings. If we understand sentient beings, we will be Buddha. We will be enlightened ones. So, but I've been focusing on specific groups of sentient beings. Today I would like to focus understanding the sentient being that is ourselves. Do we understand ourselves? Because often I find people when I try to help to talk to, when they think they have problem with someone, and then we give all the Buddhist kind of advices, and then at the end they realize their problem is with themselves, not with anybody else. And then some of them really wish they weren't the person they are, and this and that. So on Thursday, 24 graduate of Gyuto College had an audience with His Holiness Dalai Lama. These are very sharp-minded geishas, who have graduated, and then they had an audience with His Holiness Dalai Lama as to how to go about them, the advice for them to as to how they may best benefit other sentient beings. And His Holiness said, "Look there, you cannot benefit anybody unless you yourself are very good terms with yourself." So even if you academically understand so many scriptures and commentaries, whatnot, you may only educate people intellectually and theoretically, historically, symbolically, religiously, and history and this, that. But in the end, you can only benefit other people if you teach them how to benefit themselves. So this comes back to how to understand helping ourselves as the first person sentient being. And His Holiness said that the best way to help is two. That is understanding the dependent origination and bodhicitta. And this is very key because His Holiness always, what he meant is that sentient beings like ourselves, when we think we are the problem and it's our fault and so on, whether we sometimes switch that to somebody else or whatever, we usually fail to think that whatever seems to be made or caused by ourselves, we think it is all my fault. But we fail to know it is all interdependent. We fail to know it is interdependently originated. We definitely had a part to play to it, but there were many other causes and conditions in the background. And we fail to take into account all the other factors that too has contributed. And as a result of that, we sabotage ourselves for having not done this right, for being angry, for being short-sighted, for being deluded, for being reactive, and then subsequently we bash ourselves and we become somewhat a little bit very, very sad and depressed. And because we fail to know that everything is interdependently originated, and we do not know how to develop compassion, we don't have bodhicitta for sentient beings who don't understand this. You can generate bodhicitta for the sake of sentient beings who are suffering by not having food or clothes or loved ones or somewhere to live or haven't got a job or have lost everything. You can generate compassion, loving compassion on those things too. But very few people generate bodhicitta for those who don't understand dependent origination. So that's really not understanding dependent origination makes people to point finger at someone and then blame each other. And then they really are deprived of bodhicitta. They're deprived of happiness because they don't understand everything is dependently originated. If everything is dependently originated, it is also impermanent. When people do not remember everything is dependently originated, then they nitpick and they pinpoint to someone or including oneself and then bash themselves and then become angry. Then they say bad things, they do childish things, and then they got perpetuated by that. They don't realize how dependently originating their own outcome of their action will be. They don't understand that. And that's why we need to develop bodhicitta. We need to develop bodhicitta, bodhicitta to those who don't understand emptiness, those who don't understand interdependent origination. Sure, you can develop bodhicitta, altruism, for sentient beings who are loved, who lost a loved one and who's orphaned and who has nothing and who is abused or who is sick or who's born with some severe kind of physical, intellectual disabilities. We can develop compassion to them, but that's not the kind we are referring to. Our conventional society does very well to take care of those things. You wouldn't believe how much Australian government helps to people with severe mental and physical disabilities, sick or disadvantaged or whatever. But those kind of physical sufferings can be allayed by lot of organizations, individuals. But what people lack is the wisdom discerning the understanding of sentient being suffering, which is created by dependently origination. All sufferings are dependently originated. We don't. We think the suffering is caused by him to me, them to her, and he to them, and we always become so dualistically driven as if who is wrong and who's right. When we are going into the dualistic way of who's right and who's wrong, we fail to remember everything is dependently originated. Because when we fail to know everything is dependently originated, then we have to develop bodhicitta for the sake of those who don't understand dependently originated, who are intellectually obscured, who have cognitive obscuration. What is the obscuration? Not knowing everything is dependently originated, therefore does not independently or truly exist on ultimate level. Sure, temporarily there is a problem, but that problem can also be solved dependently. The problem is not ultimately there. Problem is not real. Problem is not permanent. Problem doesn't come by itself. Problem didn't come from one external cause. There are much more than that. So that's why when His Holiness advised people to remember dependent origination on the relative level, is to meditate on ultimate bodhicitta. Ultimate bodhicitta is not people failing to know emptiness of things. Then they grasp to one thing aversively, and vice versa, become attached to another. Because of that, they fail to understand everything is dependently originated. So they don't understand emptiness. So as long as they don't understand everything is dependent originated, they will hold extreme wrong views, as if suffering is caused by someone's action. Like this conventional society always look for someone else to blame, and that is not understanding dependent originated. That is looking for someone to blame too, so that no one else have to take responsibility. So easy. But if those who know everything is dependent originated, everybody takes responsibility. That what I do to it, think about it, will determine the outcome. If so, rather than what he or she did is the final kind of a absolute outcome, we still that still is dependent on what we do. What we do what if we understand it is empty and impermanent of existence, and even though it has happened, now what happens is up to me. And if we develop compassion and bodhicitta for those who don't understand that and act childishly towards each other, driven by greed and hatred and ignorance, none of these they know they are practicing. So that's the sad thing about they don't realize they are under the spell of their own afflictive and cognitive obscurations. They rather look for somebody else's action, and somebody like sentient beings. Some people are angry at someone else in their life that happened 5, 10, 20, 30 years ago. They're still angry at them. They think it's their action that caused my sister or my loved one or him or them or my friend or myself to suffer. So there are people holding this kind of rigid views. Now we need to develop bodhicitta for the sake of those who don't know these things. Therefore, we need to cultivate bodhicitta in order to wake these sentient beings to know that's not the correct. Your cause of suffering is a wrong view. Your cause of suffering, your condition of suffering is someone's action or someone else's kind of a immediate condition of your suffering might be his action, but the root cause of suffering is your wrong view. Now, this is very difficult because most sentient beings don't understand. We ourselves are a prime example of it. Now, if you're still suffering a lot of bruise and a lot of angst and anger towards someone or even to yourself, it's because you don't have the understanding of dependent origination. Now, dependent origination is understood by those people who cultivate merit. They need to be very positive. They need to believe in the teaching. They need to have faith in the Buddha. They need to understand and investigate and scrutinize how true the teachings of the Buddha is. And so when one is putting the legwork in understanding the teachings of the Buddha, the Dharma of realization, when you realize how true the Dharma is, then you will nod your head, yeah, everything is dependently originated. I have failed. When I attend the class, I nodded my head and I agreed to it. But then after the class, I quickly go back to dualistic, right and wrong. That's it. You go right and wrong. That's why middle way is dependent origination. The rightists and leftists are two extremes. So we don't have to look heretics among the Hindus or the non-Buddhists. There's a heretic in us, individuals. we are religiously maybe we believe in Buddha, but in practice we are all heretics because we are not practicing the middle way. Middle way means dependent origination. The middle is only in relation to the right, middle in relation to the left. There's no middle that exists by itself. Nor does right exist by itself without left, nor does left exist without right. So middle way is the one which takes into account how everything is interdependently originated. And when you do that, so people with merit and have practiced are called yogis. Yogis have experiential perception. Deluded sentient beings have deluded impure perception. So we have sentient beings who don't understand each other, including themselves, have always impure perception. Impure means deluded perception. About themselves, about someone's action, or one's perception of somebody are all tainted by one's own afflictive obscuration. But when an individual starting to practice middle way and follow the teaching of the Buddha, have taken true refuge in the teaching, and still continue to investigate the veracity of the teaching, not just believing teachings because you heard from someone you met or you read somewhere, but you need to compare with your own notes in everyday life that how not to be the heretic in residence, There's a heretic in residence, We have to attack the heretic in residence. That is ourselves, Because when there is a heretic means extremist. Extremist means one who thinks right, one who thinks wrong, one who doesn't see how everything is interdependent originated. Therefore, nothing is truly existing. Everything is empty of inherent. Everything is merely labeled, merely conceived, and it went snowballed from there without any thought. It never got stopped. But if you are able to know everything is dependent originated, you can pause and then stop your wrong views, and then wrong view doesn't exist inherently either. Thank goodness. Even wrong view does not exist independently. Even wrong view is dependent origination. And even wrong view is only exists because there is no right view. And when you have developed the right view, then you have that understanding everything is impermanent, not truly existing, everything is interdependently produced, and not seeing these most sentient beings suffer, alas. And then we develop bodhicitta. The bodhicitta is very important because bodhicitta is altruism for sentient beings who do not have the reserve of merits to understand these. They never have heard of dependent origination, let alone bodhicitta. They think everything is created by God. That's the problem with Judeo-Christian religious doctrine, is that everything is created by God. As a result of that, most people are led to believe that things happen in life is all fault of somebody else. That's what Buddha says. You have to investigate. Where Buddha said nothing is created by God, let alone you, let alone one finer person out there. If there is someone who is primary cause of some things that happen to you, it's only a condition. That's a possessive condition, objective condition, immediate condition. There are lots of conditions like that in Abhidharma Buddhist philosophy. There talks about not just condition, but causes and conditions. All the things we point our finger to, including ourselves, it's all my fault, is we are just a condition. We ourselves do not truly exist. We are conditioned by a number of things. We are created by a number of things. There is no truly existing self other than merely labeled name, for instance. But when we become attached to a name, then we become so easy to get upset, as if I am this, I'm that, how dare do you talk about that to me? People become hurt very easily merely because they become attached. They're conditioned by their attachment. So we have to learn to understand how to not get attached to I and me or mine. Your story. You're too attached to your story. That's why you couldn't let go of somebody. You think your story is completely true. You don't realize your true story is only a point of view. Only a very small margin of point of view that 359 other people would not agree with you. Yours is only one of the 360-degree view. There are 359 other points of view. But when you attach to that your own point of view, I and me and mine, that's what happened to me, and then we are constantly we are conditioning our suffering to get worse. That's called samsara. We are perpetuating. We're perpetuating our suffering. We are not able to see how we ourselves are conditioning the suffering to become habituated and perpetuated. Perpetuation means samsara, Samsara means vicious cycle. Samsara actually means wheel, wheel of existence. So it means person is perpetuating the thing again and again and again, and he doesn't know what he's doing is dependent. What he does, everything depends on what you do. Doing doesn't mean just physically and verbally, but largely mentally. People are making their sufferings mostly in their head. They don't realize how to recognize this, how to stop the mind. That's why we meditate. That's why we meditate, try to sit still, train our mind to focus on the breath, focus on the posture, watch the forward counting, qualify round of breathing, and then do the reverse counting of super qualified round breathing. When you're starting to do so that you are able to train the body and mind. So when you do regularly, you are creating the condition. You are creating dependent origination to create the merit, Even merit is not truly existing. Merit is accumulation of positive deeds, thoughts, and words, and behaviors. When you do that regularly, then you have a reasonable stock of positivity up your sleeves, and then you're starting to believe, everything is dependent originated. But alas, most sentient beings do not see this. That's why I have to practice bodhicitta for those who do not understand this. I myself have to take step to gain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings who are struggling, not understanding dependent origination, because they're holding the extreme right or extreme wrong view they may have. So here someone has typed, can you explain dependently originated? Yeah. Okay, that's good. So dependent origination in simple terms is due to this, there is that. So you're looking at me, you can call me that, and you call yourself this, and I can do the same. Due to this, there is that. Yeah. So so the domino effect. Another example of the domino effect is you can have many dominoes put one next to another, but if the end domino was pushed, and all the other dominoes tend to fall one after another, that's a dependent origination. But not only the pushing of the end domino is the dependent originator of all other dominoes falling, but if the gap between two dominoes is larger than the domino, it wouldn't cause the rest of the dominoes to fall. You can try next time. You can put 10 dominoes, and then make a big gap between the 10th one and the 11th one, and put other 20 other dominoes there. You push this way, then those 10 dominoes will fall, but it would not, the rest of the other dominoes will not fall. Why? It is dependent on how much gap there is between the 10th domino and the 11th domino. If the gap between the 10th and 11th is the same or lesser than the gap, then all the dominoes will fall. So domino effect doesn't mean one who push it caused the dominoes to fall. No. It depends how much gap space is allowed between two dominoes. So we can, if someone push the first domino and all the 10 dominoes fall, but we could be the 11th domino to put a big gap between the 10th and 11th and not let that cause you. So that is dependent origination on the other way around. So even if someone screamed at you, yelled at you, or abused you, but if you have the right reserve of merit and say, he must be stressed, he must be having a lot of sickness and sorrow and loss of loved one and lots of problem at home, he must have a lot of stress. If you, with that compassion, instead of thinking, why did he do that to me, but if you develop that, then whatever he did does not cause the 11th domino to fall. Why? Because you can create the space between the 10th and 11th domino. So usually people say, give me space. Exactly, yeah. We should give more space between the 10th and 11th domino or whichever. Then you can stop. You can prevent the injury or pain or reaction and overreaction due to your own, I would say, reserve of merit. So, if Roy is asking, is the domino gap right view? Exactly. Domino gap is not only the right view, it is also bodhicitta. You have to develop the bodhicitta altruistically, so that instigation of somebody is not seen as aggression to you, but instigation of theirs as a sorrow and misery of theirs, bottled up pain, hurt of theirs. Instead of he is doing this to me, he would do that to anyone because of his sorrow and his stress. When you do that, then you are not only developing right view of dependent origination, but also altruistic motivation. Why he suffers and why he seems to be creating the suffering is he doesn't know what he's doing. So, therefore, he is totally ignorant what he's doing, let alone to whom. Therefore, your right view, which is the emptiness and the dependent origination, as well as altruistic motivation, the bodhicitta. You have to develop altruistic motivation means, I should help him because I have the benefit of having the right view, whereas he's in the darkness of not knowing what he does. So where does people have the good reserve of ability to practice patience? A lot of people practice patience, by the way, but they practice patience with resentment. So they don't have the right view. They practice patience on the spot, maybe, but then a couple of days later, they feel resentful that they have to practice patience. They say, no, I will never do that again to this person. So they have been resenting ever since they practiced one miserable patience. So it wasn't even patient. So they didn't have neither the right view, right intention. Right intention is bodhicitta, nor the right view. So when His Holiness Dalai Lama says that the right view, which is dependent origination, and bodhicitta, which is right intention, when you have the right intention, then you do not misinterpret someone's action with ill will. You interpret someone's action with compassion. Oh, poor thing, what made him to do this? He must have had a lot of suffering and pain. How can I go and assist and make sure that their suffering is not escalated by my childish reaction? So with this in mind, we restrain our own mind. We develop compassion to them. We do not let their action to instigate our neurotic mind, but we realize their action is suffering. Their action is suffering in themselves, and their action can cause suffering to us or anyone who lacks this right motivation and right view. So with this in mind, your right view enables you to develop right motivation. Right motivation enables you right view. So that's why if you look at the Eightfold Path, first one is right view, second one is right intention. So this right view, in general Buddhistic terms, in the Nalanda Buddhist tradition, is called dependent origination. Okay, dependent origination is just a little bit means domino effect. Yeah, domino effect. This is because of that. Here is because of there. High because of low. High is not high from its own height. High is only high if there's something lower. But the lower than the high is not cause of the high. The high itself has a little cause that is higher than the low. But if something higher than the high comes, then the high becomes a lower than the high. So therefore it's mutually dependent. Not only dependent from one side, but dependent from the other side as well. So this means when you have understanding of dependent origination, then you develop compassion to those.
These people don't understand the right view. Right view is saying everything happens, but due to multitude of causes and conditions. And most people are not looking for multitude causes of condition. They're looking for one cause and try to bark at that tree. And often the tree they bark at is always the wrong one. Unfortunately. And they not only bark at the wrong tree, but they've been barking 10 years. And they have no intention to stop barking. So sad. So that's why you develop bodhicitta motivation. Alas, that's how sentient beings suffer. And you can turn that within yourselves. You can look at someone else. Are they your perception of them, or are they what they really are? Are they your right view, or are they your wrong view? They are usually your wrong view, unfortunately. You think they are doing this because of that, you are having this problem. You don't realize what they're doing is completely necessary from their own point of view. It may not sit very well to you. Someone is playing flute, I say, just next door to me when I'm giving the teaching. And his Sunday afternoon playing flute and music getting loud. For him, he has no intention to make it disturb me. He has the intention to make his afternoon meaningful by playing the flute. So, but if I'm sitting idly, I would say, oh, nice flute. But I'm getting very serious, but what I'm doing, teaching, is very important. It shouldn't be disturbed by anybody. So then his playing flute is not a cause of enjoyment for him or me, because where it depends to my intention and my view. When I think that, why he played this flute when I'm giving the teaching, then it automatically becomes a cause of disturbance. He doesn't have to play flute very much. Even he stopped to play flute 5 minutes later, I'm still bickering. See, I'm quite capable of creating the problem myself. It depends on my own negativities. So dependent origination is someone can instigate without intending to, but if we do not react and overreact, then it totally depends on that. You can't clap it even with 2 hands, you say. They said you can clap with 2 hands, but I can't see any hands clapping right now, because everybody got 2 hands and they're not clapping. Why? It depends to that person who want to clap or not. If a person doesn't want to clap hands, just like the Chinese Congress, they're voting for somebody, everybody puts their hands up. No abstention. Everybody clapping hands, everybody clapping hands. There's not a single person had a head there. So it's dependent to how much you are controlled. Likewise, we are controlled from someone within ourselves we do not know. And likewise, every other sentient being that we fail to understand, we are angry at, we are cross at, we do not love them, we hate them, we don't agree with them. It's all dependent to our own opinion, perception about that. We do not realize how that is causing the problem. So not seeing the right view, is the great tragedy. And that's why we develop altruistic motivation, right view, for the benefit of those who lack this understanding. So understanding sentient being is a difficult one. It's only the Buddha understands sentient beings. That's why he has unconditional bodhicitta to all sentient beings. And his unconditional bodhicitta to sentient beings is there because he knows sentient beings do not have the sight to see the right view. So they need to go to an eye operation, and most of them can't afford it. And what it costs, it's the time, it's the faith, it's the belief. Because most people, even they're learning Buddhism, they don't want to learn Buddhism if it's a religion. They want to practice secular Buddhism, you see. See, they say they're missing the point. So even those small number of people interested in Dharma, most people want to practice secular Buddhism without religious component of it. Now, right view and bodhicitta are two central pillars of Buddhism, Without having the faith in the Buddha, and you could not generate bodhicitta. You could not even generate refuge. Without refuge, you are not Buddhist. You may be intellectually read Buddhist books, you think Buddhist of some sort. There are lots of people who do even Buddhist studies academically, have positions to teach, but still they don't believe it as a spirituality. Whether they call religion or not, I don't know what's wrong with the religion. I can't say anything wrong with religion. The very central tenets of all religious teachings are as good as gold. It's just people are lumping religion with the human frailty. The actual message of the Buddha, the enlightened one, actual message of the gospel, and Quran and all the religious traditions. You look at some of them are extreme views here and there, but central tenets of them are always love sentient beings who do not know what they're doing. Forgive those who do not know what they're doing. Yeah, if you are able to forgive others, it's because you understand sentient beings who usually aren't understood by each other. There is so much misunderstanding between people that people have no intention to change or admit that as their own misunderstanding. They think the object that they think about is wrong, is truly wrong from its own side. They don't realize it's dependent on their own prejudices or lack of it. So this is why when you know things are caused by a number of causes and conditions, then you tend to see how small cause can even stop all the effect that are caused by many causes and conditions. So therefore, it's important to what they call the Buddha is the knower, whereas we cannot understand or know sentient beings. We can begin to understand sentient beings if your comprehension of bodhicitta and the right view are starting to gel well. When you have the right view, which comes from good listening, good study, and most importantly, good contemplation. You got to think about it in everyday life, not just read and study it, but you got to think how this thinking actually will help us and benefit others and humanity in general. When you investigate it carefully, and then also you practice in meditation, then it will slowly reform your attitudes and perceptions, how all sufferings are caused by a lack of right view, and therefore due to existence of wrong view. And until sentient beings acknowledge that, they will continue to perpetuate the very suffering they don't want, but they are themselves blindly causing it. So that's why sentient beings can be best understood if we are able to unify the practice of understanding the dependent origination. Dependent origination means that everything is caused by a number of factors, and therefore it stops you from pointing finger at one, let alone reacting and overreacting to. Even people forget the Dharma totally when they think something is this, and they react and overreact worse than those who have Dharma, because they think they know the Dharma, and they think the Dharma is ultimately truly existing, which is the wrong view again. Even you cannot impose Dharma on other people, because the Dharma is only believed by a small percentage in the human population. If you look at the people who call themselves Buddhists, they are Buddhists by culture. The number of people who are Buddhist by culture, who understand the real Dharma, is very, very few, I must tell you. I tell you because we know in Tibetan community, most of them are following cultural Buddhism. And our lineage, our school, our teacher, all that kind of, that's not Dharma. Dharma teaches how to see all sentient beings as your kind mother or someone very loving to you. And until you can see them as someone who's deserving of your kindness like your mother is, you really haven't really comprehended or adopted the Buddhist principle of non-violence. And even person who has formally adopted the Buddhist practice precept, but doesn't mean they're going to immaculately to perform exactly by the books, because they still have this huge debris of karma and habits and obscuration from the past, which they have long way to shed it off. So we need to understand each other. Oh, then you don't idealize someone to be more perfect than you are, and or others to be perfect, like human beings to be perfect, when there's no human beings are perfect. All human beings are humans, because that's why they're born due to karma, due to their afflictions. So when we understand, like people in traditional Buddhist culture, they're worshipping people. They're worshipping status and identities, individuals. They're not understanding the Dharma. They're not taking refuge in the Dharma. They're taking refuge in people and status. And that's cause of Lamaism. And they almost forget Buddha, because they put large statues of a Lama of the 14th century, than the Buddha of the 4th century BC, because they can't remember Buddha. So that's how shallow Buddhist believers' understanding of Buddha Dharma is. They're mainly following the culture. So among the small number of people who understand the Dharma, and then who try to realize Dharma, and then practice bodhicitta, and develop the right view, because even you can't develop right view so much without merit. So most people don't have the merit. And merit comes from doing positive deeds by believing and following the way of the Buddha. So that's why most people don't know what is merit. They say they don't want to do merit. Merit simply means positive, placebo effect, doing positive things that makes you and others happy and benefit. So when you do that physically, verbally, mentally, under the guidance of the Dharma, and then you are slowly accumulating your stock of merit, positive deeds, and those who have a lot of stocks of merit, then they can see what is right view, what is dependent origination. And then they can also see how most people do not understand the right view. And therefore, you develop bodhicitta, right view, right intention, to those who don't understand that. Yeah. So this you can see how the right intention and right view, or the bodhicitta and dependent origination goes hand in hand. And most of the time we cultivate bodhicitta. Not only as a kind of a beginner, you should do this for the benefit of all sentient beings, but that is very easily said than done. Saying the bodhicitta prayer is very easy, but doing is much harder. So that what does it mean is one should intently say the bodhicitta prayer or reflect on them, that how pitiful it is. Most sentient beings don't know that all the things that happen in their life is due to many, many causes and conditions. And they would not even think it is that. They conclusively jump into conclusion, it's him, it's her, it's them, it's me who did this, and then one wanted to punish them. This kind of childish reaction, overreaction, has dependently produced the suffering. When you understand dependent origination, you understand emptiness. And when you understand dependent origination, you have the fitness, moral fitness, to develop bodhicitta for the sake of others who don't have any sign of knowing that. So your reason of generating bodhicitta is because they fail to understand everything's dependent origination. How? Because they are not accepting things as dependent origination. They are vehement. They are really driven to prove that someone is the wrongdoer. And even the society and people in large will help you to prove that someone is wrong. And this is how this world is completely tattered and worsened by this perpetuation of the suffering. Instead of pausing the state as it is, and then look at how it came about in the first place, and not look at one and only cause of it, one and only cause. What are the many, many causes? If we do not want this result, how can we prevent this cause from happening again? Instead of being resentful to the result of past actions and then quarreling with that. That's what the foolish quarrel with the result of the past. Wise consider how to create a better cause for the future. So that's why the one who has the bodhicitta motivation contemplates how to go about to create a positive cause so that this does not escalate, but if possible, de-escalate. And most sentient beings are completely incapacitated to de-escalate by their habit, by their anger, by their I and me and mine importance. They do not know how to quiet and calm their mind or thoughts. They are not able to screen their feelings, or screen their thoughts. They become wallowed into their thoughts. How they're deluded they may be, they don't even know they're deluded, and they get so much hijacked by their own affliction. So that's why we don't understand our own reactions, and we don't understand other people's reactions. But when we do understand why we didn't react to that, is because we understand everything is dependent, and it totally depends on what I say, what I do now. If I do it compassionately and altruistically, patiently, and practice peace with it, no matter what has happened so far, let it be, but let me make sure that this does not escalate into any greater problem than it already is. When you have the fitness to do that, that's called patience. That's called compassion. That's called giving peace a chance. That is the meditation. You become fully present. And when you're able to do that, your temporary suffering does not decrease, but your aversion to it does. Your aversion to the suffering decreases, because suffering is also dependent. Suffering is a dependent cause of your compassion. Suffering is not truly existing suffering. If you understand suffering and sentient beings, suffering of sentient beings become cause of bodhicitta. Okay? So the sentient, with exclusion of sentient being and suffering, you could not attain enlightenment. Just because you want to follow this way, that way, you only progress in relation to your dealing with sentient being and suffering. So both sentient being and suffering are mutually dependent. There is no suffering that exists by itself. Suffering only is in a deluded mind of a sentient being. Suffering itself is not in the shop, not on the road. Suffering itself is not a thing. Nothing is written as a suffering. Suffering is a deluded mentality of sentient being. But the good thing about the deluded mentality, even deluded mentality of sentient being, is still dependently originated. He doesn't have good examples, good help, therefore he's always negative. So he's also become deluded. But if he has an inner repertoire to turn to how to restrain that and pause and not react, then that very reserve of merit that he has, then he can actually stop it from escalating. He does that out of altruistic motivation, not being in a sort of righteous saying, I'm right, you're wrong, you can't do this to me type of thing. No matter whatever he did, what he said is one thing, what I don't take it literally is a completely another. So if your friend, they call it in war, modern warfare, they call it friendly fire, If your own soldiers, if your side of the soldiers shot at you, kill you, they go friendly fire. So friendly, isn't it? So friendly, it's killed you. Why we call friendly fire? Because they didn't know what they're doing. They didn't know it was you. They know They thought you were not you, you were enemy. So there's a lot of misfiring happening. Even parent-children relationship or loved ones relationship that become very good and good become soured is because of that. Both of the individuals become so addicted to their deluded views, and they are not realizing that they are mutually dependent on each other. They don't realize that, they don't accept that, they don't see any part they themselves have contributed. And if we didn't do this, they would have been that much upset. And I must have done something wrong. That has caused him. As therefore, if I practice patience, then it will downplay the problem. If you do that, that's called merit. That's called the right intention. When you have altruistic motivation, you do not think of what is there that did to me, but what is I that can reduce the severity of the problem that appears to be conditioned by their action. Now it is on my term how I can reduce this from going escalated by practicing a right view, right intention. When you can see that, then that's dependent origination is not nihilism, not emptiness, not saying everything's empty, do nothing. Meaning it depends on your compassion and wisdom. If you have compassion and wisdom, no matter what some things have done, arrive at your place with a very bad situation, but if you were able to do it carefully, it is not emptiness. It is the dependent origination of liberation. It's cause for you to become compassionate, cause you to become forgiving and patient, and the like. And this is why nothing is independently truly existing. Even if somebody's doing is nothing is independently harmful. The Angulimala's attempt to kill the Buddha. Angulimala attempt to kill the Buddha. Remember that. Angulimala tried attempt to kill the Buddha, and if the Buddha was another person who wanted to defend himself, try to grab another sword and try to fight, it would be quite a different consequences. But because Buddha was such as enlightened one, when he saw the Angulimala carrying this sword in his hand, with having killed so many people, he developed profound compassion to this. He realized the time has arrived. Time has arrived that Angulimala will now be tamed by his graceful response to him. So Angulimala's violence did not become a cause for the destruction of Buddha's life or his mother's. Instead, it saved him. Why? Because it depended on Buddha's compassion. The compassion and bodhicitta of the Buddha and the wisdom of the Buddha did not allow all the wrongdoings of Angulimala to escalate, but rather he tamed him, he gave him teachings, he changed his mind, he made him to abandon his violent way. And then he became a monastic. Well, any of the other 999 people could have done that too, but they lacked the understanding of how to deal with the man whose life has been so ravaged by wrong guidance and prejudice and jealousy. Angulimala was a violent person independently like that. Angulimala was himself object of jealousy, objects of dishonesty and accusation, and you can call repression. He suffered all of that, and he was so deluded in doing what he was doing, but he was under the pressure of all the above. But Buddha knew those all very well because he had the good intention, and therefore he had the good right view. that Angulimala was actually a very obedient, very intelligent, very faithful, very loyal student, but he got the wrong advice and influence and jealousy and conspiracy by his teacher's wife. When Buddha understood that, so everything that was there, Angulimala dependent on not only what he did, dependent on what Buddha did. So if the Angulimala's wrongdoing is truly existing, he would have never become Arhat. He would have gone to hell straight away. No, in that very life, he became a saint because of his ability to have the right kind of conditions, right kind of or dependent factor, like the Buddha and wisdom and all of the things that he was able to. His violent way didn't become inherent cause of his suffering or hell, but it became cause of his attainment of arhathood. So therefore, we too need to look at every situation and sentient beings with great compassion. How sentient beings are so childish in not knowing what they are doing, and not knowing particularly law of dependent origination and right view. And because the right view is never taught in schools, high schools, universities, never. Right view is never taught. Only few people who have the good reserve of merit to make their way and find the Buddha Dharma, then they realize the teaching of the right view and right intention. When we have that, then we will be much more kinder to the sentient beings who we often misunderstand. And that could be even ourselves. So we need to learn to practice bodhicitta and develop right dependent understanding of right view towards ourselves, and back off really even towards ourselves. Whether you are going through some particular things in life's difficulties, you are too attached to something. If you realize if you attach to that, therefore the problem seems real, you can see it's exactly true. Because of this attachment, that aversion, this problem arose. So as soon as you release this attachment, and that problem slowly disappears. The problem's still there, but it doesn't bite you, it doesn't sting you as much. You are not, say you have a looming health issue, or we all have. If the word "if" is a very wrong one, we all have a looming health issue, and we want to deny it. Why? Because why should we deny it? Why should we resist it? We have lived this long. This already is miraculous. If you think like that, I'm fortunate to have lived this long, these years, this healthy. So if you start thinking like that, you don't have the same aversion to your looming illness. You will start living more fully, more compassionately, more graciously. You will practice generosity. You will practice kindness to others. You think that this might be the last day of your life. Things like that. It's completely changed. Dependent origination. If you can think like that, your problem becomes so much lighter and non-existing. Your problem is empty of true existence when you understand dependent origination. And you completely take the heavy weight off your shoulders. So we have to be very ardent to understand the sentient being called ourselves, and practice altruism, practice right view in relation to ourselves, and then we begin to understand other sentient beings as well. You can then imagine and fathom the Buddha is the enlightened one, omniscient one, who has wisdom and compassion and power. And those people who don't believe in these three qualities of Buddha, they are not Buddhists. They may read Buddha's teachings, philosophy, but that doesn't make people Buddhists. Buddhists are people who completely have refuge in the Buddha and his wisdom, and we have refuge. We truly take refuge. Take refuge means we have solace, we have peace when we practice Dharma. We believe in the Buddha Dharma so much, and we believe in the Sangha. We believe in the living tradition of the Sangha, and therefore we draw a lot of joy and strength from that. So that's true Buddhism. I don't know about Buddhism without religion or secular Buddhism. These are recent coined by some people who couldn't be bothered practicing Dharma because they have misinterpreted themselves. So Buddhism and ability to understand sentient beings is a when we understand sentient beings, we understand Buddha's wisdom and compassion and wisdom even more so each day. So with this, I will conclude here. Unless you have one or two questions, please, if you have, feel free to put your hands up. Yeah? Yeah. First arrow is the original pain. The second arrow is how the mind interprets original pain, and is often worse than the first. But we can avoid the second arrow. Indeed, yeah, yeah. We are often pained by the first arrow without knowing our arrow is going to be just as bad as the first one. So we no need to double the trouble. So that's exactly, yeah. The gap between the domino effect is the second arrow. So therefore, it totally hinges on how fit we are not to cause the second arrow. And so we are not so much bothered by the first arrow, but we are woken up by the first arrow so that we do not do the second. Thank you, Don. Next one, should we continuously seek to create the space of the middle way? Oh, yes. There is. We always need to make space for our mind to move a little bit away from the rightist and leftist view. And how do you know that you have to make a space for middle way? You feel rigid, you feel stuck, you feel angry, you feel aversion. But when you have middle way, there's a lot of kindness, a lot of compassion, a lot of right view. If we are searching for how to act in a particular situation, such as how to build a fund for Stupa Temple Peace Project, well, these things are, of course, if people are really, if we recently thought this point Anne raised is quite relevant to most of you, about a couple, about a year ago, we wrote to everybody asking that our Stupa project, we have already about $1 million, but the project will cost nearly $3 million. So we had to seek advice from everyone, and so we decided to sell SIBA. If SIBA was able to sell, we would be able to fund it. And then SIBA was still not sold. And then we wrote to people, could people give us interest-free loan or donation and so forth. I don't know how many people we wrote to, could be in thousands. But only 6 people responded, and the 6 people gave 300,000. So so if everyone out there did respond, we would have definitely raised the 3 million. But only 6 people wrote, $300,000. So that's why it needs if everybody say, okay, what can I help? How can the ceiling of the house be supported without many rafters? Yeah, when only 6 rafters came, it raised 300,000. Now we still haven't sold SIBA, And so now that doesn't mean we could still build with that money. 1.3 million doesn't build. So we still have to try to sell SIBA, if not Virupa. So that's why we wrote, I think Lydia wrote recently saying, can you please think again and see whether you can help? Because we will be able to return the money after selling either of them within a year. Previously, when we bought both SIBA and Virupa, we did the same, and we paid back everything within 5 years, But this time we don't have to wait, we can pay as soon as we sold. So actually, there are lots of people out there who could be responding positively and doing that. So that's what we are how to build the fund. So we need to rally. We need to talk not just ourselves, but maybe someone in our friends, among our friends, maybe they can loan. Maybe they can give a loan with the interest. Because banks are not really interested to give loan on short-term customers, let alone what we call non-profit organizations. So that's why we need to find the fund for the stupa by talking and raising the awareness to more people. Of course, Stupa temple exists properly. We got the land, we got the nearly half of the fund. So what makes us to doubt? No, it doesn't. It's just a matter of time. So it's not an extravagant cost because of the Australian standard of requiring all the public venue, requiring this, requiring that. It's not necessarily a commercial building, so it has all this requirement. That makes it a little bit hard, but otherwise it's not. These days people are paying 1.5 million to an average house, so it's nothing. It's really not a lot of money. It's just that we need more positive response from maybe another half a dozen another half a dozen people, and you wouldn't believe that we will be repay them back within as soon as the place is sold. But there's nothing stopping us, because we now the development application is nearly finished, and so we will start with the money we have, and within the meantime one of the two will be sold. If anybody's a donation or interest-free loan comes before that, of course it will give us a little more support. So otherwise the goalpost, that Don is saying, the problem that you have is the goalpost is shifting. It's not shifting. The cost is caused by the rise of, because of pandemic, everything, the building material, everything has gone up. Look at your groceries. You can see how much has gone up. All the building, it has gone up. Yeah. So these are all interdependent. Remember, these are interdependent because of all the things that's going on. So there is no. You cannot have things not shifting. That's why it's shifting all the time. Yeah. We thought we don't have to sell at all. Now we are thinking selling, if not this one and that one. So anyway, why somebody said, why is the stupa building so important? We wanted to build a monument in Canberra in recognition of His Holiness Dalai Lama's great many work, and also with ACT government really positively responded us, giving us a big plot of land. Now, not many Tibetan Buddhist organizations, I think we are the only one to receive a land grant in the middle of the capital as Canberra. So therefore we are trying to do something symbolic in Canberra, even though we have centers, but they are not traditionally built one. So we wanted to consolidate a place here in center in the national capital, for which our committee had the long vision to seek a land grant, and after quite a few years we were able to get the cabinet approval to get the land grant. So we are nearly, our work, at least good 50-60% of our work is already accomplished. So it's not just a mere vision. It's almost just realized. It's just question of getting the fund in hand to get the building done within 12 to 16 months. So it's not whether it's important or not. It is important. It will happen. It's just that just we wanted to make it happen. So it's not a question of why it's important or not. If if centers like Samye in Tibet was never built, Buddhism would have been not so strong. So while of course our project is very modest in comparison to Samye, but every small effort, you can see the even much bigger project than this one have been envisaged many places before 30, 40 years ago, like the big Bendigo Stupa that Lama Yeshe envisioned, you know. Everybody thought that was hard, that won't happen. Yes, it had a lot of things to go, you know. You can see slowly with goodwill, and how much it is a very important vision and contribution to whole, you can see. So we need to be very optimistic. While building a lot of monuments is not really the primary purpose, but having a kind of a relatively permanent home for the Dharma in Australia, for particularly for Tibetan Buddhist society in Canberra as work goes, it means a lot to our many years of work together. So I think every organization has certain goals to fulfill, and it will be fulfilled. So there's no need of any questions or doubt about that. It's just how quickly and how swiftly it will be done. And it was usually good. They say a good project takes time and patience. We don't need doubts. Thank you very much, everyone. Yes, Bendigo Stupa is going from strength to strength. Yeah, down in Bendigo. Yeah, I've been there when it has only a couple of rail carriages. Some of the earliest retreat I conducted were there in the early 1980s. So now the overall structure is up, and a couple of statues are there, and it's coming up very well. And because the overall vision and people who kept the vision going didn't go back, and because you wouldn't believe how much they thought it will cost and how much it has cost them now, you wouldn't believe, and how much is yet to spend to make it finish is even more, because right now is a shell. The shell is there, but all the rest of the things is yet to be built. The main thing is that vision, and people who keep the work going are remarkable. So they have to have such merit to keep the project going in spite of whatever uphill challenges they may face. So we can rejoice their effort, even though ours is much smaller, but it still will go a long way to fulfill the wishes and benefit of the Dharma, for the benefit of all people. So with this we will conclude. Thank you, everybody. We do the dedication of merits. So all the merits is coming together. It's just a question of how quickly, but they are all coming together, because when people think, I know one Hindu temple up in Canberra, there's a two brothers sold their houses. Two Sikh brothers sold their houses, and they donated money, and they're in the meantime living with friends, and that's how they do. That's how they did. You know, someone has to give, and they have to give with a vision and that purpose, and that's what the Jetavana Park in Shravasti was also built. You know, it's always one or two people generously give, and some. Here we are not talking about give just donation, but could be just a loan, could be just a half a year loan. After that is all be repaid. Only thing is the loan will make us not having to make very hard decisions short-sightedly. You know, we can wait a little bit to sell Siba and not rush having to push to put Virupa on market. Only that kind of help will help. Otherwise, we have the money. It's just stuck in our asset. so that we are not asking people money to give so much. We're asking people money to lend so that we can repay them back.
So it's quite a different thing. So anyway, thank you everybody. Let's do the dedication merits. And by the way, before I finish this Tuesday is the Labab Duchen, which is the anniversary Buddha's descent from this heaven after preaching his mother. So at 7:30 we are doing a special 16-hour puja at Holder. So those in Canberra, please show up in person. Others, you're most welcome to join through the Zoom. Thank you. Let's do the dedication merit. Where has been bombarding really with generation. Okay, thank you everybody. See you next time. Take care.
Thank you, Lama. See you on Tuesday.
Thank you.